Russia bombarded Ukrainian cities with a cruise. It is said that Trump's nominee's cabinet members are receiving bomb threats. Israel declared that the ceasefire agreement reached with Hezbollah was violated. Australia bans social media for children under 16. Hello dear. Our series contains these and other selected items. Stay tuned. Russia bombed Ukrainian cities with cruise missiles. Ukraine has announced that the Russian missiles hit the target of the energy infrastructure. Today, it was reported that Russia has hit various Ukrainian cities using cruise missiles. Sources of Ukraine Zerka and Susply have announced that Odessa, Kropyvnytsky, Kharkiv, Rivne, and Lutsk are among the cities that Russia has hit with cruise missiles. Energy infrastructure has been targeted once again by the enemy's large-scale attack, Ukrainian Energy Minister Hern Holchenko said on his Facebook page. The enemy continues to attack the city of Kharkiv with missiles. The city's mayor confirmed the Russian cruise missile attack in a telegram message. Russia hit Ukrainian cities with cruise missiles this morning. How many missiles it fired and the amount of damage it caused have not yet been released. Since the start of the Eurasia-Ukraine war, the events of the past week have seen the conflict escalate. The war flared up anew after US President Joe Biden authorized Ukraine to use US long-range missiles to attack Russian territory. When Moscow struck Ukraine with a new medium-range ballistic missile, it shocked the international community and raised further concerns that Russia's Ukraine-Russia missile standoff was somewhat subdued. However, since the start of the war with Ukraine, Russia has been making rapid progress and is taking control of Ukrainian territories, analysts say. The Russian army is said to have controlled 235 square kilometers of Ukrainian land in the past week alone. This is a new record for the year 2024. According to information released by Russia, in November of last year, it controlled 600 square kilometers of Ukrainian land, referring to the deep state, an institution close to the Ukrainian army. Russia will use all weapons at its hand if Ukraine goes nuclear, Putin warns. Last week, there was a report that the US could arm Ukraine with nuclear weapons. Russian President Vladimir Putin warned yesterday that if Ukraine were to be armed with nuclear weapons, Russia would attack Ukraine with all kinds of weapons at its disposal. The New York Times reported last week, citing unnamed Western officials, that Joe Biden may give Ukraine nuclear weapons before he leaves the White House. What can we do if the country that is fighting us gets nuclear weapons? If that happens, we will use all the destructive weapons in Russia. We will not allow that to happen. We are monitoring their every move, Putin said in a statement in Astana, Kazakhstan. Putin said that for Ukraine, if there is an official handover of nuclear weapons, they will be in violation of the entire non-proliferation treaty. Putin added that Ukraine may be able to develop a dirty bomb that could cause pollution, but it cannot produce nuclear weapons. Russia will respond accordingly, Putin said. Ukraine inherited nuclear weapons after the collapse of the Soviet Union, but agreed not to use them in the 1994 Budapest Accords, when Russia, the United States and Britain provided security guarantees. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly complained that the deal made his country vulnerable. It is said that Trump's nominee's cabinet members are receiving bomb threats. At least 9 candidates, including those chosen to be the Minister of Defense, were told by phone that their homes would be bombed. The 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump, has received bomb threats from his chosen cabinet members. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, did not say who was targeted in the bombing, but said it had received multiple bomb threats. He said that the fake phone calls were made that the houses of the candidate cabinet members will be bombed with the aim of getting the police to come to the houses of the individuals quickly. It has been stated that the bomb attack threat has reached at least 9 nominees, including those appointed by Trump to be the Secretary of Defense, Housing, Agriculture, and Labor. The police announced that they are investigating threats of violence against the candidate's cabinet on Tuesday and Wednesday. Carolyn Levitt, a spokeswoman for Trump's transition team, said the nominees had received horrendous threats of violence from their families. But the security forces have moved quickly to ensure the safety of the candidates, the BBC reported. The spokeswoman said that Trump, who was re-elected after 2 assassination attempts, was invincible and said, "Trump is a good example that threats and violence will not stop us." Elise Stefanik of New York, whom Trump chose to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, was the first to say that she had received threats of violence. Stefanik was driving from Washington, D.C. to New York with his wife and 3-year-old son when they received the threat. Pete Hegseth, who was nominated to be the Secretary of Defense, confirmed that he was the target of the attack and said, "No threat will stop me from fulfilling the mandate that President Trump has entrusted to me." The 78-year-old Donald Trump did not receive the bomb attack threat sent by phone, according to the American media. The White House announced that President Joe Biden has been briefed on the matter and security agencies are coordinating with Trump's transition team. Israel declared that the ceasefire agreement reached with Hezbollah was violated. Israelis who are returning to their homes near the country's border have been ordered to stay where they are. Israel announced that the ceasefire agreement with Hezbollah had been violated. A ceasefire between the Lebanese armed forces and Tel Aviv, brokered by the US and France, will allow citizens of the two countries living near the border to return to their homes after 14 months. The Israeli army said the ceasefire was violated after people suspected to be Hezbollah militants were seen in various vehicles near the southern zone. Hassan Fadlallah, a senior Hezbollah leader, accused Israel of attacking people returning to their villages in southern Lebanon. Lebanese security sources announced that Israeli tanks attacked 6 areas in southern Lebanon, including agricultural areas. The areas where the tank attacks are said to have taken place are 2 kilometers away from the blue line that marks the border between Israel and Lebanon. When 2 innocent people were injured in the attack, Reuters said that according to the information obtained from local security sources, Israeli soldiers are still in the border region of Lebanon. Under the ceasefire agreement, Israeli forces will withdraw from southern Lebanon within 60 days, and both sides agree to refrain from offensive operations. The agreement, which came into force yesterday, is considered a huge diplomatic success in the conflict-ridden region, but how long it will last is in question. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered tens of thousands of Israelis who have been displaced for months on the northern border of Israel not to return to their homes. This calls into question the effectiveness of the ceasefire agreement, Reuters reported. Hezbollah, for its part, stated that its fighters would remain fully armed to resist Israeli attacks. He also warned the militants to keep a watchful eye on the situation until the Israeli army completely withdraws from Lebanon. Australia bans social media for children under 16. Australia has become the first country to pass a law banning children from using social media. The Australian government has passed a law banning children under the age of 16 from using any social media. The controversial bill, which is said to be aimed at preventing harm to Australian children, was passed in the Australian Parliament yesterday after debate. The new Australian law, which is said to be the first in the world, makes things difficult for the giant technology companies. He was told that it would serve as a starting point for other governments. The law requires Meta, the company that runs Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, and other Marawi media to pay fines of $49.5 million Australian dollars or $32 million US dollars if they do not prevent children from accessing their pages. It is said that the law will be implemented on a trial basis from January. He was also told that the ban would take effect within a year. Marawi media now have a social responsibility to ensure the safety of our children, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said in his comments on the legislation today. The social media issue has been a pain for mothers and fathers, said the Prime Minister. This law is for fathers and mothers, he said. Following the ban on social media, Australians are said to have mixed feelings. The passing of the law is a good thing. Sometimes children see things they shouldn't. So there are residents who say the ban is justified. I'm so angry. I feel like this government has thrown democracy out the window, said Sean Close, 58, of Sydney. South Korea rejected Ukraine's request for military aid. A delegation led by the Minister of Defense of Ukraine has arrived in Seoul and requested military assistance. South Korea has announced that it will continue to refrain from providing direct armed support to Ukraine. Since North Korea sent troops to Russia, Seoul has chosen to remain neutral despite repeated requests from its allies and Kiev leaders to provide military support to Ukraine. Yesterday, the Ukrainian delegation headed to South Korea also submitted the same request for military support, but it was rejected. Seoul, which has announced that it will not provide any direct armed support at the moment, has said that it may consider such assistance depending on future actions by Russia and North Korea. The delegation led by Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov held talks with South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. During the talks, both sides agreed to continue exchanging information on North Korea's military exports to Russia, as well as technology and arms exchanges, the president's office said in a statement. The delegation also met with Seoul's National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik and Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun to discuss cooperation between Seoul and Kiev. In an interview with South Korean broadcaster KBS in October, President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine plans to send Seoul a request for detailed types of military support, including weapon support and airstrikes. Diplomats close to the matter told Reuters that closed-door talks between the two countries have focused on air defense technologies to shoot down warplanes and missiles. But the victory of Donald Trump in the U.S. presidential election this month has left South Korea uncertain about its support. Most South Koreans see growing military ties between Pyongyang and Moscow as a threat. But according to a Gallup poll in Korea, 82% of citizens opposed sending military aid, including weapons, to Ukraine. Analysts say that the support of the South Korean president in a situation where the opposition in the country is high and the relationship with the next U.S. government may be damaged due to the support of weapons, will cause more harm than good. It is said that more than 6 million citizens in the Amhara region need food aid. Since April 2015, when the federal government decided to reorganize the regional special forces, fighting has been going on between the government security forces and Fano in the Amhara region. The Assembly of Amhara Higher Education Institutions has recently held a forum in Addis Ababa focused on the humanitarian crisis in the region. Reports of the humanitarian crisis in the Amhara region were presented at this forum, which was attended by many indigenous and international aid organizations, including regional and federal institutions. Among them, 6.1 million people are said to be in need of humanitarian assistance, and 1.8 million of them are said to be in need of urgent food aid. Also, 4.7 million children are said to be out of school due to the war, and about 4 million citizens are in need of healthcare support. Thank you for being with our Dear series.